And now it's time to sip the coffee and spill the tea on Talking with 3D Live. Here's your host, Derrick Dixon.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Talking with 3D Live. I'm your host, Derrick Dixon, and this is where we always sip the coffee and spill the tea. Today, we're spilling the tea about finances. Y'all need to tune in to this. I'm going to give you some time to go get you a pen and a paper because you're going to need to write some things down. You're going to need to take some notes. Me, myself, I'm going to have to watch this show over and over again because I don't want to miss anything. But listen, before we do anything, I need y'all to do something. Make sure that you subscribe to Talking with 3D Live. Click it, love it, share it. Do all those things. Make sure that everybody is tuned in. And I thank you guys for tuning in every Monday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here, because it's an IRoseFilms production. So thank you. But right now, it's about to go down. It's about Dr. Constance Craig-Mason is here with me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course. I'm so excited that I have you to interview you. Yeah. It's so exciting because we met some years ago, and I got a message that you were interested in me hosting a show that you were having.
Correct.
And when I thought it was just going to be something, okay, you want me just to say this and say this. And it was an all-day show.
It was.
And when I tell you, it was life-changing for me.
Oh.
It truly was life-changing for me because of the fact I got to meet so many different people, the connections
Absolutely.
that you allowed me to have was wonderful. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Thank you so much. I want to tell everybody a little bit about you. I do want to just give this a little information, if I could.
Sure.
According to data from the TIAA institution, a significant portion of the Black population lacks financial history, financial literacy, and with studies showing that on average, African American adults answer only 38% of personal financial questions correctly. Correctly. White Americans answer 55% correctly. So, just to sit there and think, where are we lacking in the financial world? Are we lacking? Is it just the fact that we don't want to put our information out there? So we're going to talk about that today. Dr. Constance Craig-Mason, she is here, MRFC, NSSA, and I got to find out what those acronyms right there are. Is the CEO of Concierge Financial Advisory. As a dedicated financial planner, national social security advisor, investment advisor, insurance broker, she teaches her clients to correctly manage their money so they can live the life that they want without worrying about money. Dr. Craig-Mason also receives numerous awards. Also in 2022, the honoree of the Association of African American Advisors, 50 Under 50. She has been featured in Forbes, also Yahoo Finance, MSN, Black Enterprise, and U.S. News and World Report. How you like me now? Okay, so Dr. Constance, thank you so much again for tell the audience and my viewers and a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. And yes, it was a blast a few years ago.
When you
gave us your yes, because we had not engaged personally prior to that message.
Exactly.
But I had seen your stuff online and I was like, we need good energy, we need fun. It was the pandemic, people were home, and I was just like, we need someone who's fun, engaging, empathetic, and you had all of those traits.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
You and your husband, I appreciate appreciate both of y'all because y'all, I'm telling you, you opened up doors for me that was amazing. So thank you to you and your husband who is here in the audience with us today, because here on Talking with 3D, we do have an audience. Y'all just don't see them. But anyway.
Yes, come on, audience.
We got to speak things into existence.
Yes.
So that's what I do here. So, I really appreciate you opening up doors for me because I met so many people that I still follow.
Amazing.
And still have connections with and just learn from them. I learned so much. I learned so much about myself. I think I even cried on your show.
You did cry on the show, and it was so touching. It was such an organic, authentic experience, and that is why we were doing that experience at that time.
Today's episode of Talking with 3D Live is brought to you by IRoseFilms. IRoseFilms photo booth will capture every special event, from birthday parties, weddings, baby showers. They also specialize in 360 booths, also videography. So please make sure that anytime that you have a special event, contact IRoseFilms, IRoseFilms.com. Yeah, I think if more people were vulnerable enough to talk about, their experiences, especially in financing. Me, myself, I have been back and forth with financial issues.
Right.
I purchased my first home. I was 35 when I purchased my first home.
Yeah.
And my problem when I purchased my first home, I didn't have enough credit. Because I thought, I was being smart. Don't get no credit cards and everything. I won't have no debt. I won't have no bills, nothing like that. And when they were like, you don't have no credit, because I bought cars and I would pay them off.
Right.
Or we go to the auction and pay cash for it. So I didn't have to worry about it. I was living scot-free.
Right.
To me.
You make a valid point. And that's one of the things that we would bring up during our conferences, workshops, seminars, because a lot of people think of debt as a bad thing. We can leverage debt, right? We've got to use a strategy and be smart about it. And so I always tell people when it gets to the point where it's debilitating or it's unmanageable, that's when you have a problem. Right?
Undebilitating and unmanageable.
Absolutely. Like anything else, like our health and wellness. When it becomes a problem or unmanageable, you need to talk with somebody. You need to see someone. And that's most things that we deal with in life. But back to your point, just to give people a little bit of insight on myself, I am married. As you said, my husband is here, over 20-some years married, and we have adult children. I've been in this field for 16 years as of January. Learning and growing, going through the whole entrepreneurship journey. And it has been, like you said, up and down, so it's not just the people who maybe work a job or, be unemployed. It's even the entrepreneurs who have to find their resilience in this space. And I think that I've done a pretty good job of bouncing back because you have to bounce back when life happens, and it happens to everyone. And the pandemic was an example of how a third party thing that none of us was even anticipating could come and literally knock the wind out of all of us collectively. And so when we were doing those conferences with you, it was a way for us all to come together, to network, to see how we could collaborate, to see how we could be inspired and learn more. And so that was the energy of that moment, but it's the energy of this moment too.
The energy of this moment. And I just was looking over a lot about you, Constance, and the power of financial conversation. We've lost that talent.
Yeah.
We've really lost it because of the fact, everything that's going on in society today.
Right.
There's a lot of people worrying.
Absolutely.
A lot of people losing their jobs right now, and we were led to believe this person, we won't say their name, that's in office today, that a lot of stuff was going, this was going to happen and this was going to go down and everything. And people are worried. But the power of conversation is not there. How do we get that back?
One of the things that we believe in is having uncomfortable yet transformational conversations. Now, I grew up in poverty in the inner city of Baltimore, so there were no money conversations going on. But once I became a young mom myself, I realized that there was so much that I didn't know about money. And I started Googling I'm dating myself. I started Googling any and everything about how to get a bank account, how to get my first credit card, how to get an apartment, even, my driver's license. I didn't know how to do that, so I had to seek the knowledge. And I think that's part of it. When we're uncomfortable, most times we'll shut down. We'll stop talking,
Right.
we'll hide, we'll retreat. And I think that's the worst thing we can do as it relates to any challenge that we're having, because we're more alike than we're not. And so you would be surprised who else is going through it, who else has come through it.
Yeah.
So if you were to just say, hey, I'm a bit uncomfortable, I don't know what's gonna happen, whatever your feelings, because that's the root of the worry is the uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
And so the root of the worry for money is the uncertainty of, do I have enough? Have I saved enough? Is my credit score high enough for the things that I need to leverage? So I find that it only takes for someone to just open up, and then it opens the door for other people to open up. And so when we create platforms such as conferences, our book projects, or even exclusive community that we're now engaging in, it gives people, and I hate to say this because it seems like a cliche word now, but a safe space
Right.
to just be. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to listen, learn, and grow.
I think about my childhood, and I think about me and my mother in line at the grocery store. Our first time in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And my mother handed over food stamps to pay for our groceries. My mother was so embarrassed.
Right.
I didn't know what she was handing over.
Okay.
I didn't know they were food stamps. I didn't know where she got them.
Right.
I didn't know anything of what she had to go through to get them. And, and whatever you have to do, food stamps, snaps, however you do it now, you have to do it to survive.
Right.
But what we are trying to teach you today is to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
But she was so embarrassed, and she said, from this day forward, I will never have to use these again. And I think she was more embarrassed in front of her children.
Okay.
Okay. Instead of explaining to us, this may be happening today, but it's not forever.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think a lot of stuff is forever,
That's
especially when your credit, debt, things like that, they think it's forever. And how do people heal from financial trauma?
That's the question, right? So you touched on something important when you said that she made a declaration that day that never again, right, will I be in this position. But I find that when people feel stuck, it's because they lack vision. And even myself, growing up in poverty, I didn't realize until a few years ago that vision gets swallowed up when you have a financial trauma, whether it's divorce or growing up in poverty or the pandemic or job loss. Anything like somebody come and take your home away, take your car away. It literally feels like you're in a dark hole. And then you have to figure out a way to open that up and let some light in. But most times we don't have the language, we don't have the tools,
Right.
we don't have the coping skills, we don't have the financial literacy to rely on at those times. And so when I say vision, I mean, even when I was a little girl, I didn't think about retirement. What is that?
Right.
It was not a word that was used in my home.
Correct.
Credit, what is that?
Right.
It was not a word used in my home. And so now we say these words like it's nothing.
Right.
But for a little kid, who's relying upon adults, guardians, family to show the way, it's like they can't teach what they don't know. And so that's why I started pursuing knowledge for myself. And so with that, when you say, how does a person get out of the trauma? It is, one, the declaration that you want to. Because there is such a thing as learned helplessness.
Okay.
And what that is a person getting comfortable being in that space. It just doesn't work for us. It doesn't happen for me.
Yeah.
And so when I say you have to get to the point where you decide, I don't want to be like this anymore. That is the start of it. And then you start seeking out, well, where's the help? And I find that usually that help comes from mental and emotional help before it ever becomes strategy and budget sheets and credit scores. It's the work on you that brings the wealth.
And then when we, at times, what we'll do, when we get comfortable in that pocket, we're teaching our children.
Absolutely.
We're teaching the next generation who will teach the next generation, just be comfortable.
Right.
Don't have the vision.
Right.
Just be comfortable where you're at, and hopefully it'll heal itself.
Yeah. You know, there is what they call a victim mentality. Have you heard of victim mentality? And it's so funny because my sister pointed this out to me some years ago. And there was a family matter that we were all going through, and I had not been speaking up for myself. And it had just been building and building and building. And so the moment I decided to speak up for myself, all heck broke loose.
Okay.
Right? Because I wasn't the one, right, to say anything when things would be uncomfortable. I would just suck it down. And so when I said it, it all blew up. And then it made me feel like, well, if you all say don't let things build up and speak up for yourself, and then the moment you do, it goes left, then it would make a person feel like, well, I'm just never going to do that again.
Right.
I'm just going to keep these things to myself. But what she said to me in that moment was, she said, do not allow these things to build up to the point that it gets to this level. You have to speak up for yourself in the moment. And she said, you have a victim mentality.
Right. Yeah.
And I was not even sure if I should be offended or not.
Yeah. Because I would be offended. Right.
I literally Googled, what is a victim mentality? Now, granted, we do know that victims can be created.
Yes.
Various situations where victims are created. And at those times, they do need a myriad of support in whatever way it could be, right? A rape, victim or financial victim. You need support. But then after a certain time, you become mentally aware that you get benefits from being a victim. People start showing up, right? They start agreeing with you, right? And that keeps you in this safe space where you're not required to grow.
Okay.
Because I'm required to grow when I want to change my life, when I want to change my mindset, when I want to change my finances. And that is hard, right? The inner work is harder than the outer work. But when you do that, now you build confidence. Now you know that I've got my own back. I don't need someone to come along and save me, which we know no one's coming.
Correct.
No one's coming to save us.
Correct.
And so the victim mentality was something that I was like, I wasn't aware of it. I was looking for everyone to save me, including my sister. And I'm like, no, I need to build whatever confidence I need to build to do the things, to say the things that I need for myself. And so when she said that, it literally was a life-changing experience, because who wants to really just live a life of victimhood? But if you don't know that that's how you come off, that's the energy you bring, that's the language you speak, that's how your behaviors show up. And it's like, wow. So when I think about how that relates to money, if you have been in a home where maybe resources weren't plentiful, then you become the victim of, well, we don't have enough. And this is just how it is. Right. Right. And I've been on all the different programs that you mentioned, like your mom. I've been on WIC. I've been on food stamps. I've been on cash assistance. Right. I've had the daycare vouchers, but that was for that time.
Okay.
Because there had to be a declaration that I don't want to be like this anymore. And you mentioned your mom said you never knew what it took for her to get that benefit, right? So these people put you through such a humiliating process to apply and wait for an approval for things that you absolutely need for your humanity.
Wow.
And then you say, okay, well, if that's what I need because this is where I am, I don't have to stay here. So what is the work that becomes of me? That I learn more, that I get more educated, that I can earn higher pay, that I start a business, that I have a few hustles. What is it going to take for you to out-earn that benefit? Because after a certain amount of money, you get cut off.
Yeah.
I would want to graduate to get put off the programs.
Okay.
Because that is the proof, the residual of the work that I'm doing, if that makes sense.
That gives you the turning your pain into purpose.
Absolutely.
Turning your pain into purpose. And I think that's what we don't get. How do we take this
All relevant.
and turn this big major issue, what we find as an issue, that could be really something that could be fixed?
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're going back to vision. What's the purpose?
Absolutely. It's hard to see yourself in a different place, especially if you're the one. What does that even mean, right? I'm the one that's going to break these generational curses. I didn't ask for it,
Yeah.
but I might be the one. And how would I know that? I'm doing the work. And when I'm doing the work, people ask, well, how? Well, what? Where? So you're the person who's fixing your own stuff and modeling now, but you're also the person that's become the leader, that's become the advocate. And it's like, I didn't really sign up for that, but here I am.
Yeah.
And once that happens, then as you say, you're showing your children, you're showing your nieces and nephews, you're showing the neighborhood kids, you're showing them that, okay, I might not be where I want to be, but I do, as long as I'm living and breathing and healthy,
Right.
I can do something about it.
Yeah.
So now you take that powerlessness and you turn it into power.
I hear you when talking about generations and things like that, and I have to think back again about my mother. My mother was a barber, so my mother always had ones and fives and tens.
Yeah.
So everywhere that we went, she paid cash for everything.
Got it.
So driving one day, my youngest son, I had a bunch of cash with me, and he was like, "Why do you always have cash? Why aren't you using your card?" But what I was sitting there thinking is that you can't depend on one thing all the time.
Right.
Have different resources.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because if you don't have different resources, you don't know when the bank, banks may shut down.
Right.
There's so many things that could happen in life. Life is always life, and we don't know.
Right.
We have to have those resources. Are people afraid of that? The resources in life, carrying cash, always depending on the almighty, the card.
Yeah, I would say with everything we do, we need some kind of balance. And I have had to learn these lessons hard because I'm not the person that carries cash around. I'm the one that has whatever card in my wallet and I'm ready to go. But I find it frustrating when I have to pull out $1 or some coin. And I'm like, my husband's like, I've got it, right? And I'm so happy because, he had the forward thinking to have the cash when I had all the cards. But people can be fearful. But again, it just goes back to uncertainties, right? There are some people that are only card, and there are some people that I have got to have my hand on tangible money because most of our world is digital. And so if and when, God forbid, we would have an attack on our digital system, the poor and the rich are in the same place.
In trouble, right.
We're in the same place if I can't get access to that bank account or that credit card.
Yeah.
And it can be something that causes people, some fear. But I would say, have some of that cash at the house. If you have a safe or a safe place, have it there because you would want to be able to still get access to things if there were a catastrophe.
Dr. Constance, tell our viewers, how do we empower ourselves to have these conversations, to not be afraid of financial failure, building yourself back up, having a plan, having the vision? How do we empower, especially in our Black and brown communities?
Well, for our spiritual family out there, He has empowered us to get wealth. So everything that we need is on the inside. But of course, as trauma happens, as life happens, as the world changes, it changes your perspective of how powerful you really are. And so if you have just one or a few people around you that pour in, that's a starting a point for me. You know, those few people that you can rely on, that you can be vulnerable with, that you can be authentic about. Because most people, if you share something uncomfortable with them, they want to reciprocate in some way.
Right.
They want to make you feel better about the situation. So they might give you a number to call. They might tell you about a website to go to. They might even share something that they have gone through that they were able to get out of. So, but they say a closed mouth don't get fed.
That's right.
So if everybody is in a safe space. Let's be clear about
That's
that.
right.
You know, how do people say don't tell everybody your
Right.
business. But those few, and we know who they are
Right.
in our circle because they've done it before.
Yeah.
They've been there for us before. So I would say that's how we empower ourselves, is to know that we do have power.
Right.
But then there are times when, if we are a bit weak or vulnerable, to use those people in your circle to get yourself back up.
Get yourself back up in there. Again, so many resources. Like you said, people to call.
Yeah.
They give out, you can Google everything
Everything.
you can do. And the information is right here.
Oh boy.
Right here in this great book
Yeah.
called Money Talks. Money Talks. And there's a portion in the book that says, help people to establish $1,000 emergency savings fund.
Yes.
We don't know how to save now because we think we going to save. I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
And then Temu comes along, Amazon come along, and I think I need those pair of shoes.
Right.
And I thought, oh, it's on sale. They get us.
Yeah.
And then by the time we done clicked 5 different items, I done spent $100 when I could have put my $100 on my BG&E.
Right.
But I don't know how to save that.
I was just going to say, when you mentioned the certain stores, there is a feeling that we get when those boxes show up.
Yes.
Especially if you've been someone who's been financially challenged in the past or maybe grew up in poverty. When you're able to take your card and pay for something and it arrives and it's what you desired, there are hormones that go up inside of us that it gives us those dopamine hits and we feel fantastic, which means we want to do it again.
Dr. Constance, we get that box, we set our stuff up that we done spent our card in, and we sit like this.
Cannot wait.
I'm looking at all the stuff that I bought.
We looking on the ring cam.
Yes.
Is that my FedEx truck?
Yeah. Oh, here comes the FedEx truck right now, like this ice cream when we was a little kid. Here come FedEx kids.
Yeah.
See if, and then I go sit down like, I don't want to stand at the door because I want the doorbell to ring. I want the doorbell to ring. I want them to set it down. I want them to take a picture. And I want them to email me that my package is there. And I open the door immediately and sit there and I look at what I bought. And I'm like, okay, what next?
But it goes away. You need that hit again.
What next?
Yes.
What can I go get next?
Yeah. But that is a trauma response. It is a way to cope with something else that we have not been able to say or do. So when I say that there are emotions and mental health tied to money, that's what I mean. There's emotional spending, there's emotional eating, there's avoidance, there's hoarding. There's all kind of ways that we have learned to cope instead of having the uncomfortable conversations, instead of seeking out the financial literacy, going to that workshop. It may seem boring, right? But how are you going to improve yourself if you don't feed yourself what it needs to be better? So when I say that the trauma, it doesn't have to start in childhood. It could be something like the pandemic or what we're experiencing in this political space where a lot of things are being taken away, a lot of norms that we've been used to having or experiencing. It's almost like every day there's a financial loss. Whether it's through job loss or programs that we used to rely on, funding for our businesses, for our nonprofits. Like every day you're just watching things go away. That is traumatic, right? And when you don't have an outlet, you find a way to cope. So it could be the eating, it could be sex, it could be spending. But this just goes back to us having a desire to be better. Because once that dopamine goes away, you want some more. And then you look at your bank statements or your credit card statements and you're like, ooh, I'm over limit. Or I've maxed out. or I don't have enough for the next bill that I have to pay.
Right.
And that's the reality for a lot of people, but they don't always tie it back to trauma. They just say, oh, the economy is high. Because that feels better, right? That feels better than the work I have to do to blame it on the economy.
Wow. Money Talks. Where do we get the book?
Amazon.
Amazon. Of course.
Amazon.
Money Talks, but it has so much good information.
Yeah.
Uncut conversations with financial experts on how to grow leverage and to protect your assets.
Grow, leverage, and protect.
Grow, leverage, and protect. Everyone has to go out, get this book, Money Talks.
Yeah.
It's
Amazon bestseller.
Amazon bestseller right here in my hands, ladies and gentlemen. So please support the book. Don't sit there and wait at the on your couch for it. Just know that this is a good investment.
Right.
This right
you
here.
don't mind when that box comes.
Yeah, this is a good investment. So please make sure that you get the book. We have just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
We could be here for
all day.
But I want to invite you to come back, please.
Absolutely.
I want to invite you to come back because there's still so much more that we need to educate. This is just the icing right now. This is just a starter. I can't even say the icing yet.
Right.
This is just, we just got the box.
It goes deep.
And we need to get the eggs and everything else to start mixing this all up. So there's so much more. Just look into your camera and just tell the people, tell them why it's so important to have this conversation.
It's important for us to have uncomfortable, transformative conversations about money that have not been had for generations upon generations. The communities that we build online or in person or in the book projects is a way for you to not just learn, but connect. Feel like you're not the only person who might be uncomfortable about money. You're not the only person who might not understand a lot about money. But the start is to open up your mouth and say, I need support. If you need support, you'd be able to go to my website of moneytalksmovement.com and you'll be able to pick and choose how you show up, whether it's in our community, whether it's through our literary work, or whether it's you coming to an event. So please, please use this opportunity this time that we're in to stand up for yourself, advocate for yourself, and make sure that you are not left behind because we are moving.
We are moving. Do not get left behind. Do not get left behind. Your financial life is very, very important. These conversations have to be made. So please go out, support this book, Money Talks. We thank you again, Dr. Constance. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
You guys, listen, we are here every Monday having these great conversations right here on Talking with 3D Live. Please tune in every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please make sure everybody knows about it. Go out, learn, talk about finances. I love you guys. Love somebody intentionally. Peace.